20 years and 7 months ago, Doctor Who came back with Rose. Unlike the previous few attempts to revive it, this one was a big success, and the show has been going ever since, for better or worse. But why did Rose work so well, and what can the show do now to get back to the same level of public and critical acclaim? Unlike the TV movie and Scream of the Shulker, this does not begin with the Doctor, but chooses to focus on the companion. A montage shows Rose Tyler getting up, going to work, and interacting with her mother and boyfriend. There's very little dialogue, but it does give you a flavour of her life. The mid-2000s dance piece beneath it has not aged well, but I guess it does its job of establishing the time period. Almost immediately, Rose finds herself alone in the shop's basement, full of creepy dummies who slowly come to life. It's still a creepy sequence. Autons have been used very sparingly over the years, so they still work really well even now. And shop window dummies are always scary, although I guess everybody shops online now, so maybe they wouldn't work nowadays. 5 minutes into the episode, the Doctor shows up and rescues Rose for the first time. Christopher Eccleston is immediately impressive, much more down-to-earth than Paul McGann, more friendly and funny than Richard E. Grant, and with a costume that makes him look like an ordinary bloke. No hats or scarves or question mark pullovers are necessary, no matter what John Nathan Turner may have thought. He's quirky enough to seem a bit off-kilter, but his alienness only comes out infrequently, like when he forgets that Mickey might be dead. But he's a very forgettable character, so you can't really blame him. The writer, Russell T Davies, sensibly doesn't overwhelm the audience with lore. Here, the Doctor is just a mysterious alien who helps people. That's all you need. The whole Time War backstory is left until the next episode, but the way in which he tries to avoid sticking around with Rose certainly implies that he's got some past trauma he's dealing with, so it does track. A prime example of RTD's approach to the show is the scene with the Doctor in Rose and Jackie's flat. Taking a very ordinary situation, putting the Doctor in it, and seeing what happens. His rejection of Jackie is hilarious, and the scene of him flipping through Heat magazine is not something you can imagine any of the previous Doctors doing. After the Auton arm attack, which is not a great scene to be honest, there is a long walk and talk with the Doctor and Rose, which does a lot to show the characters go in bond with each other, and it's all done in one take, which is still very impressive. Maybe they could bring in the director of Boiling Point and do a whole episode like that. Rose Googles the Doctor, and Clive's site comes up first. No AI suggestions or sponsored results in 2005, it's all been downhill since then. Clive is meant to represent the typical old-school Doctor Who fan, a sad middle-aged man in a room full of books and DVDs. Anyway, Mickey being swallowed up by the bin, of course looks terrible, but then it did even at the time. And the plastic version of him with a permanent smile is just ridiculous. Of course, you have to bear in mind that they were aiming for a family audience, so they had to have something in there for the kids, be it burping bins or farting Serene. And it worked. The show had a big audience of children. At the peak of its popularity, there was a spin-off Doctor Who Adventures comic and a totally Doctor Who magazine show. So maybe the show needs that kind of thing in order to appeal to a broad audience. Finally, the Doctor tracks the Nestine consciousness to its secret underground base. And it's just a big CGI blob, which is a bit disappointing. But it does unleash Autons to attack all the characters we've seen so far, and poor old Clive gets shot. Luckily, Rose swings into action and manages to destroy it. In many ways, she is the real hero of the episode, although the Doctor has already saved her several times, so it's only fair. Billie Piper here is in her first Doctor Who role, of at least 3. Her natural charisma is evident throughout. Rose isn't exactly a deep character, more of a generic ordinary girl, thrown into these cataclysmic events, but you see her confidence grow as the story progresses and she deliberately goes in search of the truth, and her final act of heroism seems like the natural conclusion to her journey. Other characters have less of an impact. Mickey is just a generic boyfriend. Noel Clarke is not a great actor, and even at the time I was thinking he's not really cut out for it, and recent allegations about him suggest he's not a very nice person in real life, so this was a bad choice of casting for many reasons. Camille Kadooey is a little better. For most of her scenes, she's just a nagging mum, but she is very funny in the scene where she tries to chat up the Doctor, and future episodes only flesh out the character even more. In fact, there are only 6 speaking parts in the whole episode, but it still manages to feel epic. The scenes in Trafalgar Square and on Westminster Bridge go a long way to make it feel like the whole thing's happening in London, even though most of it is really shot in Cardiff. And the Powell estate is a more down-to-earth setting than even Ace's suburban neighbourhood in Survival. Not everything has aged well. Apart from the aforementioned dodgy CGI and music choices, there is a weird bright tinge to everything that makes it look like Eccleston and Piper are already on the brink of regenerating. I can't remember how long this lasts, so hopefully it's only there for this season. But it still works for the most part. Eccleston and Piper make a great team, and it's easy to see why this series was an immediate success. Could it be this popular again? Possibly, but they might need to take another 16-year hiatus first, and the BBC might not even be around at the end of that. But with the right casting and a fresh approach to the scripts, who knows? The DVD has a 3-minute feature showing how they built and blew up the model set of the Nestine base, and I never even realised it was a model, so it must have been very effective. We get a 12-minute cut-down version of Doctor Who Confidential. The original half-hour version was always a bit padded. Russell T Davies talks about how he cast Christopher Eccleston. We see the TARDIS prop being assembled, and how they shot the scene of the Doctor and Rose running over the bridge. Chris and Billie talk about the Doctor and Rose's relationship. Clayton Hickman talks about all the books and magazines. And we see a Big Finish audio drama being recorded. So I guess they were trying to introduce the new fans to the expanded universe. On the commentary track, we get the Holy Trinity of Russell T Davies, Phil Collington, and Julie Gardner. Although I would have preferred to hear what Christopher Eccleston and Keith Boak had to say about it. We learn about the filming problems, the dodgy early attempts at visual effects, and where each scene was shot. And we hear that Russell T Davies' sister criticised the Auton version of Mickey, and she was absolutely right. It's a fun and informative track. In fact, all of this team's commentaries are like that, to be honest. Overall, it's still a great watch, even though it has aged in some respects. It's way more engaging and involving than the last few attempts to bring the show back. The two leads are excellent, and it's fast-paced and fun. But I know it only gets better from here, so I'll give this one 7 out of 10. Well, thank you for watching. I should probably introduce myself if anyone's jumped on board with this video. I'm Richard. For the last few years I've been reviewing every episode of Doctor Who from the 70s and 80s, and now I'm finally up to 2005. So every Monday for the foreseeable future I'll be reviewing one episode, or maybe two if it's a two-parter. Sometimes you'll see me review books, comics, audios or annuals from the same period, just to mix it up. If you only like the classic run of Doctor Who, as some people in my comments have mentioned, then you may want to check out my Patreon, where I review 8th Doctor audios every week and 7th Doctor novels every month, among other things. Next week on this channel, The End of the World, with more aliens in one episode than we've seen in some entire seasons of the show. So press subscribe if you want to see what I think of it now, and I'll see you next time.